All right, everyone. We would like to begin by thanking you all for being a part of our Digital Transformation Summit 2021. Welcome to our super exciting session, which we have lined up for you all. I would like to thank our title partner, Accenture, track partner, Automation Anywhere, cloud communication partner, Root Mobile, knowledge partner, PwC, and bronze partner, Tata Teleservices. Without further ado, let's start our keynote session on creating a technologic center built in India Conglomerate. It gives me an immense pleasure to welcome our keynote speaker, Mr. Gautam Sinha, Chief Executive Officer, Times Internet. I would request all the delegates to keep posting the questions in the chat box, and we'll address a selected few at the end of the session. Over to you, sir.
Great. Thank you, Manmeet. I know this is afternoon. First, I wish you all the best and a very safe time in India, especially at this time. What I'll do today is take about 15-20 minutes, walk through some of the things I've been as one of the members trying to build Times Internet into a tech-led Indian conglomerate. Let me start by defining what Times Internet is. Some of you have heard about it, some of you have not, but let me just say how we play with respect to the company or the group that we belong to. So Times Internet is part of the Times Group, also called the Bennett Coleman and Company Limited. Group has presence in print, radio, television, magazines, investment, events, and digital. Times Internet is the digital arm for Bennett Coleman and Company Limited. To talk about the numbers that we touch today, we have about 125 million daily active users, close to 600 million monthly active users. These are unique. And the average time spent on the properties by each of these users is about 37 minutes. This just gives the scale of the company as it stands today. But quickly, if we can get down into what the transformation happened and why we are calling it a conglomerate at this point in time. So till about 2010, Times Internet started in 1999 until about 2010. We are largely a digital extension of a media company. Our presence was mostly in the news side of the business. So we had the flagship properties, Times of India, Maharashtra Times, Navbar Times, and so on. And as we started to grow in our audacity and ambitions, we launched Ghana, ET Money, Tech Geek, Times Card, and multiple other properties over the next 10 years, starting from 2010. I'll quickly walk you through the chronology of what we did and why we did to reach at the place that we have reached today. Before I get into the details, just quickly, a little bit of brief about me. I'm a computer science graduate. After doing undergraduate, I joined Defense R&D as a scientist working for Dr. Kalam, and with him launched all the 5 missiles, which is Agni, Prithvi, Trishul, Nag, and Akash, from 86 to 91. Then I moved to US to do my master's in computer science. In 99, the startup bug hit me, so went into working for a startup as the chief operating officer and the chief technology officer. The company was called CashEdge. It was in fintech, and it was later acquired for about $465 million. When I was trying to look at what to do next, and the startup CashEdge was entirely in US, built in the Silicon Valley. When I was looking for what to do next, and the trend was for most of the people to go work for startups, I picked entirely the opposite. Times Group or Times of India as an entity was, at that time, this is going back to 2007, about 170 years old at that time. And while the trend was to go work startup, I picked a company which was much older than I was, the opportunity to do something and make a change and make a business which is that kind of legacy that we are all proud of, and make it competitive and give it a life of another 50 years was something, some opportunity that I couldn't have let it go. So I joined Times Group as the CTO back in 2007, looking after the classifieds business. The early years of Times Internet, uh, the DNA of a media company, and that I wanted to elaborate a little bit, because as the parent was print, for us, most of the business and the DNA that we had inherited in the early years, starting from 1999, was to build a brand, to grow the brand through marketing, aggressive marketing, and then compete in the business. By about 2009, 2010, it was very evident to us that the competition outside is young, very audacious, very talented, and reasonably well funded. So that in 2010, we had the first thought that if we have to be competitive, the DNA for the company has to change from a media company to a tech-led business. And that's when we started the journey. And let me quickly walk through the years and what we did in each one of them. In 2010, the focus was on technology, and we started focusing our product with design as a center of excellence. 2011, we launched the business called Ghana. So from just being a news company, we ventured into music as a larger segment. We also launched an accelerator at that time called Tlapse. It was an early stage accelerator, and till date it has funded about 70 companies. The idea of launching an accelerator was not just the financial return of it, but also the transformation that we are talking about today, which is take the entrepreneurs from the ecosystem, from the environment, from the country, and integrate them into a culture that the culture of Times Internet gradually moves from a media-centric culture to audacious culture, with a very progressive goal set that we can all talk about and later see it in action. So what actually happened is, when we started funding these accelerator companies, we allowed them to coexist and co-host in the same offices as the corporate office. There was a free flow of information onto business leaders. There was good change, good market, and there was a healthy influx of ideas from the entrepreneurial ecosystem into the corporate ecosystem. That allowed us to imbibe some of the qualities that an entrepreneur has, and we took that to heart. And over the next 3, 4, 5 years, which is starting from 2011, we gradually introduced all the leaders and hired all the leaders who had an entrepreneurial background. So the three qualities which we were looking at that time was, a person has to be a product tech person with an entrepreneurial background who can come in and transition Times Internet and build it for the next 50 years. As I said, music was something we launched in 2011. That was the first venture where we decided the parent had not built, and we built it for the first time and ventured into it from that perspective. We also were looking at the ecosystem, very aggressive to partner with that. And this is the year we started doing cash investment. And delivery was one of the first investment that we did from a cash perspective at a larger scale. in 2012. 2012, also something very interesting happened for Times Internet. Times Internet, Satyan Gajwani had joined Times Internet in 2009, and in 2012, he takes over as the CEO of the organization. And he had a very crisp and clear vision at that point of time. And he had asked me to join him as the chief operating officer for the group. And that was the beginning of a technology product conglomerate, starting from that perspective. Satyan was very clear as to what the vision is. With my background in the Valley, I think we both aligned at the vision level at this is what Times Internet can become. We were very clear at that time that the value that can get created by an internet arm, if it has audacious goals and the right quality of people that we bring into the ecosystem, we will create value 100x of what the parent was able to create, at the minimum. And that's the vision we started with when we looked at what is the technology and product conglomerate going to look like. In 2012, we realized as a media entity, we had access to a lot of data and a lot of audience. But audience was not enough. At that time, media companies were not necessarily investing in audience data, but we took the leap of faith and went into audience data. Today, we talk about 588 million monthly active users for more than 550 million monthly active users. We know more than 70 attributes, which has continued to become the strength of Times Internet Limited. In 2014, we acquired a company called ClickBuzz, and that marked our entry into sports as a media vertical. If you look at just media, you have news, you have music, you have sports, and then we had to get into video and we had to get into games. By covering all the 5 pillars, we knew that from an audience perspective, we'll have significant growth in terms of the reach that we can talk about, from there. One point I wanted to mention is, as we acquired ClickBuzz, and as we were leaning towards entrepreneurial culture, it was important for us to relook at our own company philosophy and create an environment which was delegated to the nth level, which allows for entrepreneurs to come and stay and thrive in the ecosystem. So we were very, very, very sensitive about what is that we have to change, that entrepreneurs can come and thrive in the ecosystem. And as an anecdote, ClickBuzz was example when we acquired them in 2014. The standard term sheet was that the founders will stay with us for 2 years and then they will go out and do something else. But because of the impact in the culture of the company across the board, the founders of ClickBuzz are still with us. In fact, of the 15 odd companies that we have acquired, we believe that 13 founders of 13 companies are still with us, simply because the culture supports entrepreneurs without having to change their life. And we have allowed for Times Internet to be a company of cultures, culture of cultures from there. In 2016, I took over as the CEO. I think I also wanted to point out, since the topic is tech-led, that I was still the CTO of the company at that time. And at that time, we also launched a full stack ad tech platform. Very few media companies in the world had invested in a full stack ad tech platform. And this is something we had put about 200 people, very smart people, mostly from IT Mumbai, working on a platform called Columbia. And we decided to invest up to 100 million just to build out the ad tech platform. Interesting thing happened. We did a PR at that time, and we said that Times Internet going to invest $100 million in Colombia. And lo and behold, in a week, I got a call from the consulate of Colombia. As you guys are talking about investing 100 million in Colombia, can we come and meet you? But that's there, and it's quite an interesting thing as to how to not name a product. You know, in 2017, we we decided to move into another pillar of media, and this was the OTT platform. We did with the acquisition of MX. MX was a very interesting product. It was a standalone video player developed by one engineer out of Korea, which was acquired by the Chinese, and the users were all sitting in India, or the bulk of the users were all sitting in India. This property, with its significant scale, was very attractive for us, and we went for this acquisition, and then later built the entire OTT platform on top of it, and now it has expanded into its short form, which is MX Takatak from there. In 2018, we had Tencent invest in Ghana. In 2019, Tencent as a partner invested in MX, and the flywheel in motion and the focus was on ARPU. Let me now show you some concrete numbers as to what we have built over the last 10, 12 years as we switched gears from a media entity to a tech-led company, diversified into multiple businesses. So in news, I think we still manage a dominant position with Times of India, Economic Times, Nabara Times, and about 12 other regional languages where we have number 1 and number 2 positions. CricBuzz, I talked about, has a 85 to 90% market share in the mobile scorecard and the mobile app. It's 10x the size of the number 2 player. Ghana continues to be a leader in the music segment. Video has grown over the last 2 years to about 311 million. And Takatak is something we just launched, 4 or 5 months ago, and it is touching a more of 130 million. Today, Times Internet has 6 properties, which has more than 100 million monthly active users, and a lot of them people of our as we move forward. We didn't stop there. We already had a business in classified Magic Bricks, leader in the classified space for real estate. We acquired a company called Dine Out, which was restaurant discovery, restaurant payments, and built on top of it a couple of B2B products and a loyalty product. GradeUp is a company we acquired through Tlapse, and then we acquired a gaming company called Cureka and started building on top of that as this. A very important point for us was the investment that we did in the ecosystem with the Times Cloud platform, which I also call the flywheel, where you have the entire data, the ML that drives personalization of content, advertisement, or e-commerce that we did. Colombia powers this platform. We have loyalty built into it and identity built into it. And all these underlying systems are deployed across all the businesses that are part of the Times Internet ecosystem. The goal of the stack was to be the flywheel for cross-pollinating audiences across multiple properties. For example, in any case, the audience becomes us. Colombia was to make sure that the audience becomes users of Ghana, becomes users of Dine Out, becomes a user of ET Money, gradually driving the ARPU of the business multiple times over, and for one cost of customer acquisition, creating multiple lifetime value for the business. So the growth from 2016 to 2021 was funneled more towards the transaction platforms, not just the media platforms. Media platforms gave us the audience, but to drive the ARPU, We invested significantly in the transaction platforms. And the next 5 years, the course for us is to build on the transaction platforms. Uh, this is another view of the same diagram. The flywheel powers all our businesses. We have launched multiple bundle products, multiple loyalty products over the course of last 4 or 5 years, and trying to keep the user to the ecosystem as much as we can by using the underlying platform that we have. This is an interesting number which I wanted to share, that the growth in monthly active users as we became a tech company from 15 to about 21 was about 4.7 times. While the growth in MAU was 4.7 times, the growth in daily active users was about 31 times over the same time period. And what was more interesting, typically if you are growing in MAU, your engagement time per user decreases, but we were able to increase, in spite of the growth, the engagement time, which is what we measure very closely, by about 4.3x. So it was not just the growth in daily active users, it was also growth in engagement time over the years for us, and that's an area for our focus, that we want to have our customers, the right products for the customer, which engages them significantly over their daily course of consumption. This is what we want to be. If you look at US, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google are the anchor companies. If you think of the internet in US, if you look at China, Baidu, Tencent, Alibaba would be the anchor companies, and maybe Kuaishou now, and some more coming out of China. Times Internet, with its vision, definitely wants to be one of the anchor companies in India, along with multiple other players which are leading in their segments, and that's definitely one of the aspirations we hope for, and we believe we have a reasonable shot at being one of the anchor companies. I will stop here and over to the host. Over to you, Manmeet.
Thank you so much, sir. It was very enlightening to understand the entire journey of Times Internet and how the entire phases happened in the media space. I would really like to thank you once again, and I'd also like to thank you all the delegates for joining in. It was very enlightening, and the discussion was very exciting. Thank you so much for joining in.
Thank you. Take care. Really enjoyed it. Shared the
Yep.
opportunity.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Sure.